Welcome back everybody to another episode of Green Tool Garage. On today's tool tips, we're going to be fine-tuning a Ryobi table saw. This one specifically is the RS12, however the same is going to apply to a couple of various models. The first thing that we have right here is going to be the pitch of the blade on whether or not it's actually going to be straight. One way that you can test this is by using a caliper and measuring from the edge of the blade to this line right here, both on the front and the back. If you find that it's off by any amount, what you can do is come down here to the very front of the tool, loosen these two Allens. These are, I believe, 5 millimeters, and then you can twist this. This is going to be a angled screw that has an offset pitch to it that can slide this bracket back and forth a little bit. And then once you have moved it, retighten and remeasure. All right, our next tip is going to be about aligning the riving knife to the alignment of the blade. Sometimes the riving knife might be a little bit crooked or a little bit twisted in comparison to the blade. And in order to adjust it, you're going to raise the blade up until you see these two screws right here. These are 5 millimeter Allens as well. You loosen those, adjust the riving knife until it's aligned with the blade, and then you tighten these back up and you're good to go. Our next adjustment is going to be these two grub screws right here with a 4 millimeter Allen key. What you're going to do is you're going to find a machinist square or anything that can give you a nice clean 90 between your tabletop and your saw blade. Make sure that you're not measuring against one of the teeth of the blade because it will poke it out a little bit. But once you're happy with your 90 degrees, make sure that it is locked down with the gray lever here. And then you're going to use this 4 millimeter Allen to tighten this grub screw right here. And what that's going to be doing is it's going to push that brass screw down against that stopping plate, which is going to give it a perfect reference to stop at every single time you swing the mechanism. You'll do the same thing for the 45 degrees with this grub screw right here. And the last thing that you're going to do is make sure that this little red arrow is marking your angle correctly. This red arrow can be bent into place as needed, or you can remove the Phillips screw that's right behind here to move it into place and then retighten it. Next, we're going to be talking about adjusting the throat plate, the riving knife, and installing the blade guard. So for this model specifically, once I move the throat plate out of the way, there's two silver screws right here on either side of the saw that adjusts the height of the plastic on the table. You can go ahead and adjust it to be a tiny bit lower than the edge of the table. That way wood is able to glide across it just fine. If it's a little bit too high, what could happen is the wood bumps into this top end of the plastic and it's not able to actually meet it towards the blade. Next, for the riving knife, you're going to want to look for an orange lever down here, and if it's folded to the left towards the blade, it's going to be locked into place. So I'm going to flip it up to be able to adjust the riving knife. To adjust the riving knife or remove the riving knife, you're going to bend it towards you first and then slide it up. Once you feel that it's broken the original contact point that it was in, you can then put it back into place and then continue to slide until you hear a click. So right there, it's clicked into place and it's kind of locked in, but I need to lock the lever to make sure that it doesn't come loose. In order to remove the riving knife, again, you bend it towards yourself to release those pins and then slide up again. There's two position markers here and here that allow the riving knife to either be in the upper position where it's going to be above the blade or in the lower position where it's going to be parallel to the blade. In order to install the blade guard, it does need to be in the upper position. To install it, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to bend it towards you first to break the original contact points, and then slide it in place until you feel that click. I'm going to lock the riving knife in place now, put the throat plate back on, lock it in place, and now I'm going to start dealing with the blade guard. So again, the blade guard does need to be installed in the upper position so that it is parallel to the table. And what you're going to be looking for is two metal posts here and here that are going to slide into these two posts right here and here. First, you're going to slide the back post down into the riving knife first. Make sure it's nice and lined up. Click it into place. And then you're going to slide the front down and flip this lever to lock it in place. So what that does is it gives you this plastic guard right here that is parallel to the top of the table. It gives you these little legs right here with the teeth that are going to grab onto the wood and hopefully stop it from kicking forward. And it's going to give you these plastic runners right here that help you avoid putting your fingers in place of the wood. So here I have a piece of wood just to kind of demonstrate how this would work. I'm going to slide it into place. You see how this lifts up. And then once I pass it, it's going to start going back down and hopefully help protect your fingers. And then once we get to this back piece right here, these little teeth are going to start digging into the wood and help stop it from kicking forward by adding extra friction to it. Now you do need to be careful with this because as you lower the saw, it's going to start putting tension on these two back screws right here if you get it too low, but you are able to get it about 2 or 3 inches above the end of the table without it starting to pinch and bind. My last tool tip for this table saw is going to be the adjustment of the fence here. If you've worked with these table saws in the past, you might know or be familiar with the fact that they have a lot of play in the fence, and it can be off upwards of like 4 millimeters, which might not sound like a lot, but it can be a lot over the distance of a long cut. So what I like to do is I raise my saw blade up, I push my fence as close as I can parallel to the blade and the riving knife, lock it into place, and then I'll take a Sharpie and I'll draw a line down the front and the back. That way, no matter how thick the blade that I'm using is, whether I'm using a dado stack, different brands, doesn't matter. I have a measuring point or a reference line from the front and the fence that I can then compare to the back and the fence. As long as those measurements are correct, I know that my fence is parallel to the blade, and then I can lock it into place and make a cut knowing that I'm going to have a nice parallel cut all the way down. All right, and that concludes today's tool tips for the Ryobi tabletop saw. Hopefully after following those steps, you've learned a thing or two about helping to increase the precision and the accuracy and reliability of your Ryobi tabletop saw. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.